Greetings to all of you. It is one absolutely spectacular day here. Whoa, beautiful blue sky, and I hope it's nice where you are too. And we have a spectacular second reading for this coming Sunday, our epistle lesson. And I say spectacular in the sense that it's a real eye-opener, and it's kind of like, what's going on here? It's also a head scratcher as well. It's from Paul's letter to the Corinthians, the second letter, 8th chapter, but our pericope just kind of pops down right in the middle of it. So I would advise you to read the entire 8th chapter and maybe even the 9th chapter of Corinthians. Then you'll get an idea of what's going on here, because Paul is talking about taking up a collection, giving away your money, your hard-earned money. Yep, what he's talking about is the church back in Jerusalem is having a very, very difficult time. And he's been working on taking the collection amongst the Gentile churches, those places that he's gone out to with the gospel, to send money back home to help the people out back there. So that's what's going on in this passage. But he does it in kind of a twofold way. One is a bit of a guilt trip that he throws on them, and the other more of a theological look at it, saying, hey, this is God's work. This is God's world. You're a part of that beautiful thing called the kingdom of God. So now you need to act like it, and you need to respond like it. Respond to the big word he's going to use is grace. Respond to the grace of God. Let it overflow in your life. In fact, it is overflowing in your life. Now let it do it in this way, with your pocketbooks as well as all the spiritual gifts that you have. Let it be part of your monetary dealings in this world as well. Just a couple of things I'm going to point out real fast. He starts out, and where our pericope starts out, that's why it doesn't make any sense. Starts with verse 7. So you have to go back and read the whole thing. Now as you excel in everything, in faith, in speech, in knowledge, in uttermost eagerness, and in our love for you, we want you also to excel in this generous undertaking. And that word excel, we know what it means. It means to be, go way ahead, but he wants them to be just gushing forth in their generosity toward all the saints, the church there in Jerusalem, because, as he said, they're really having a difficult time. Now, here's the interesting part. He kind of guilts them in two different ways. He starts out in chapter 8 by talking about the Macedonian church, and he goes, man, those guys, look how poor they are. Look how much they've been persecuted. And yet they're just opening up their wallets, and they're sending all kind of money. Now, when we take this money back to Jerusalem, how about you? You guys started the job. Are you going to complete it? When we come there, are you going to have that money ready to go? So, a little bit of guilting there. But then when you go into chapter 9, he does another little bit of a guilt trip, but in this case, he's also using the fact that, hey, don't you owe it to your Jewish brethren who are back there? You're Gentiles, right? But your Jewish brethren back there, if it weren't for them, you wouldn't be where you are now. If it weren't for Jesus walking in their midst, and even the fact that a lot of them rejected Jesus. If it weren't for all that stuff that happened in that way, you wouldn't know about this grace of God, this love of God that comes to us. Now, what Paul really gets at the meat of why we give is the fact, and he says it in our pericope that we'll read this Sunday, that Jesus absolutely became nothing for you and for me. And it was out of his total emptying, his nothingness, his dying that horrible death on the cross. It's through that his grace and abundant love poured out and now overflows in our lives. So there's a theological basis for all this giving, as well as, come on, folks, can't you just open up your wallets a little bit? And he also quotes from Exodus, where God had sent both the manna, the bread, and also the quails for them to have plenty. And when he's talking about the manna part, the bread part, he says, hey, those who had a lot didn't have too much, and those who had too little had just enough, because they shared it. Everybody got exactly what they needed. And if you read on in that part of Exodus, you find out that if they took too much and tried to hoard it, it rotted. It absolutely turned into bleh. So, in other words, God's love and grace flows out in our lives, and it's nothing we can hoard. It's something we need to share. There's plenty for everyone. And the reason why God allows us to be blessed abundantly is so we can be a blessing. And we need to share of our abundance with everyone. Just like I'm willing to share the abundance of all the sunshine we're going to have today. It is just absolutely amazing. So hopefully, here it goes. I'm sending it your way. God's blessings be with you, and have an awesome summer day.